And the next author up I wanted to introduce is Ira Nayman. He's been a long-time Toronto author. He's been writing humor and all kinds of fiction steadily since 1984. His major project is Page au Fall, a website, political and social satire that he's been updating weekly since September of 2002. The website for the alternative reality news service, which sends reporters into other dimensions apparently, and has them write news articles about what they find there. There are currently 5 books in print in the series. His first novel, Welcome to the Universe, sorry for the inconvenience, was published last year by Elseworld Press. It introduces the transdimensional authority which polices travel between universes. That's a good idea, actually. You'll be reading from his second novel, You Can't Kill the Multivers, but You Can Mess with His Head, which features interdimensional travel, a fantasy delicatessen, and some special guest appearance by Michael Moorcock-style anti-hero. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Ira Nayman. Thanks so much.
Thank you. I will correct one thing though. It isn't a Michael Moorcock style hero, it's actually anti-hero. It's Michael Moorcock anti-hero. I actually got Moorcock's permission to use the character. I'm going to be reading from the beginning of my second novel. So it starts, oddly enough, with chapter 1, The Dragon of the Bagel. Part 1, The Necromantic Uncertainty Principle in Action. All of the ingredients, many of which were difficult to find in this heathen realm, had been collected. The eyes of various beasts were freely available at a specialty market in Kensington. Various herbs could be found in what the people of this realm called supermarkets, where they were sold for pittances. The blood of a virgin was a little harder to come by, but after 3 tries, the wizard found one by surfing through a place on a magical scrying glass called Craigslist. The young woman, Gladys Kravitz of Niagara Falls, seemed immune to his charms, so the wizard drugged her drink purely in the name of world domination and took the serum that he needed. When she woke up the next day, she would be weak and woozy and have an uncontrollable craving to eat jelly beans, but at least she would wake up the next day. For what good that would do her. The wizard read the prognosticatory pages of many of the local papers, such as The Star and The Globe, to determine when the moon would be at its fullest. While there, he picked up this nugget of wisdom. Today will not be a good day to start a new project. And indeed, it would not be a good day for the creatures who lived in this realm. He would have laughed evilly at this thought, but the steam from the ingredients coming to a boil in the cauldron was playing havoc with his asthma. So the wizard settled for a wicked grin and the promise of much evil after to come. Al-Sabarachim fekted barada niktu, the wizard intoned as his hand snaked in front of him, and he put the 4th toe of his left foot in, and he put the 4th toe of his left foot out. He put the 4th toe of his left foot in, and he shook it all about. As the stench from the boiling cauldron contents started to grow, his chanting became louder, and his motions more animated. Part of him suspected that his landlady, Mrs. Schmelson, would give him no end of grief if she was unable to get the smell out of the drapes. But it was a small part of him easily ignored as the dark ritual reached its climax. Al-Zabrahim fekted barado niktu, he shouted, his motions becoming what can only be described as frenzied. El-Zabrahim klatu barada niktu. Then, just as the wizard feared he would collapse from exhaustion before the climax of the ritual, there was a mild puff, and a wisp of pale gray smoke rose out of the cauldron before it was dissipated by the air conditioning. What? It was a humid July night, okay? Where does it say that casting a world-threatening spell has to be done in discomfort? This was not what the wizard had been promised by the maleficent malefactorum de maliciosi. He was expecting the sky to darken and blood to rain from the clouds. He was expecting a rumbling so deep it shook the earth with a trembling fearsome. Modern English translation of fearsome trembling. He was expecting various demons to pour forth from a hole in the universe, create a little havoc, then await his command. He was expecting to hear cries of terror from the street, the horrific wailing of those whose comfortable, familiar world had turned into a nightmare. When you're expecting the horrific wailing of those whose comfortable, familiar world had turned into a nightmare, puff and a wisp of pale gray smoke just don't cut it. He couldn't understand what had gone wrong. The wizard had been studying the Maleficent Malefactorum de Maliciosi since his uncle Maladroitier had given it to him for his 5th birthday. He consulted the great book of evil spells. Over, sideways, over, under, sideways, down. He had clearly done the hand gestures properly. Same with the incantation. His southern accent may have distorted the words a little, but the meaning should have been clear. The contents of the cauldron were still bubbling, so the wizard tried the incantation again, this time enunciating the words more clearly and making the hand gestures more slowly and fluidly. He was rewarded with a pop and acrid orange smoke. No blood raining from the sky, no horrific wailing of, It wasn't because the wizard was fat, because the wizard wasn't fat, okay? His overabundance of physical presence was pure muscle. Mostly. Well, damn the pox-eyed pusillanimity of Polydor anyway. Who said evil sorcerers all had to be tall and thin? Other than his teachers at Warthogs, the school for evil sorcerers, where, okay, fine, sure, he had to admit that he had only graduated 23rd in his class, middle of the pack, not bad, but not enough to get you into the really top flight covens. Look, the important thing is that he did get his degree, and it qualified him to practice the dark arts every bit as much as Ginny Malfantome, Maurice Maledictori, or any of the other students who graduated ahead of him, okay? Anyway, he would have done much better if he hadn't had to take zombies in 7th grade. Zombies, ugh. But animal familiars was full. What can one do? He knew he shouldn't dwell on the past so much, but really, what was he talking about again? Right. And all the other students, and his parents, and Evelina Malaprompter, authoress of the 25 Bad Habits of Really Successful Warlocks. Still, he thought, surely evil isn't about how much you weigh, but about the content of your heart. Your dark, bile-filled heart. The wizard screamed in frustration. Almost immediately, with unseemly haste actually, somebody banged on his floor from below. "Sorry, Mrs. Rosinante," he shouted. I stubbed my toe. It was very painful, as you might..." The tenant below banged on his floor a couple more times with greater urgency. Right, sorry, he mumbled to himself. He imagined the blood raining down especially hard on her head. It was late, and he was discouraged. Deciding to call it a night, the wizard turned off the burner on the stove and moved the cauldron to a cold burner. A conscientious evil sorcerer will always clean up his workplace as soon as he has cast his last spell, or so Evelina Malaprompter would have one believe. But his heart just wasn't in it. The cleaning would have to wait until morning. Excuse me. The wizard went to bed, oblivious to the croaking that was coming from the street outside his window. Thank you, Stephen. So let me just say a couple things. I'm grateful to have been invited here with so many really good authors that I've really enjoyed reading. One of the great things about having a reading with several different authors is that you can be exposed to writers that you may not have heard of before, and hopefully perhaps you'll be interested in getting some of our books. If you do, something I say at every reading that I go to now is if you do get a book from an author you weren't familiar with and you enjoy it, tell people. Tell your family, tell your friends, especially tell your social networks. Because we're all small press authors here, and we really live or die by word of mouth, and we want to live. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Ira. That was Ira Nayman. And yes, we want you to live too. He's a good man.
This video brought to you by the works of Stephen B. Pearl, available from Amazon Books at www.amazon.com/author/STPHENPEARL. For more on the works of Stephen B. Pearl, visit his website.